Thanks very much. Hi, everybody. So isn't it great to be in sunny California? I'm excited today to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing with Finaeos and to introduce you to our FinTech node, core and hub, and tell you what we're about. First of all, I'd like everybody to keep this in mind. Uber, how many people have heard of Uber? How many people have used Uber? Just curious. Yeah, it's cool. Could have never happened without the App Store, could it? So what we're talking about today is an ecosystem in FinTech. And we've been at this for about a decade now, building what we think is an ecosystem. So let's kind of go through that and talk about what FinTech is first. And then I'm going to take you into the actual platform and let you know how you can participate in that ecosystem. First of all, what is FinTech? Well, all of these things are happening in the marketplace today. The P2P lending, the mergers and acquisitions, equity crowdfunding, real estate. You just heard about mortgage. There's mortgage crowdfunding, emerging markets, the insurance crowd. It's really unlimited what's happening in the market. And it's all happening because of this massive cloud computing power. You know, we all know what giant cloud platforms look like. I'll let you know that our core has been sponsored and seeded up onto the Microsoft Azure cloud, so Microsoft is backing us to get this out there. And it's exciting to see these big cloud infrastructures emerging with a purpose that's so impactful. Well, that's all great, but how does it get there? Like, what's the tool mechanism? Well, you have to have communication to get out there. So we all know about the social media market, and SMS is crazy. And there's all of these apps that are out there now that are kind of emerging to get us beyond the old days of the age-old killer app, which is email. And finally, we look at it and we say, well, this is a process, and how does that process work? Well, we call them process flow chains. And what's happening there, like what's the underlying elements there? We hear about blockchain and all the money being thrown in at that. But when we're in FinTech, we have to start looking at things like RegTech. We have to look at 100% audit trail, information security, identity, authentication, authorization, things like that. So when you're in this space, you're not really building an app. You're not building a lightweight, game. You're building something that's going to be regulated. You're building something that's going to deal with jurisdictions all over the world or all over the country, across 2 countries. I'm from Canada, so what I call that is an ecosystem. And what you have to address are 5 component parts. You can't leave any of these out. There's not one component part you can actually leave out. So you've got markets, you've got the computing or the cloud power, you've got collaboration, communication, and beyond that, you then have security and you have integrations, and integrations are going to be increasingly affected by artificial intelligence meshed with human intelligence tasks. So if you're going to build that, how do you do it? How do you build a compliant infrastructure and not spend all your time there? We got 1.5 million man hours into this. That's a lot of coding, and it's a lot of time. So how do we help you, and how do you help us? We collaborate to build an ecosystem. We've got the plumbing, and there's brilliant ideas out there that you guys are bringing to the table, brilliant infrastructure ideas and impacts you want to make, and you can lay it on top of this. We're going to give you the nodes. We're going to give you the core. We're going to give you the enabling mechanisms to bring your ideas to the forefront. Whether you're a bank, or you're a firm, or you're a developer, or what have you, it doesn't make any difference. the Finaeos core is designed to do that. So let's talk about access. Let's talk about the skill level. So if you look at the first three of those, access, cloud, and crowd, those are all kind of the front-end things. None of this stuff works. None of this stuff works without access. And it also doesn't work without the cloud. It doesn't work unless you're connected to the cloud somehow. And all of us are trying to get to what I call the lowest common denominator. What's the lowest common denominator? The contact. You're always trying to get to that individual person. Whether you're B2B or B2C, it doesn't matter. None of it's important unless you're down at that contact level. That's the crowd, but it's happening at billions and billions and billions of transactions every minute. So then we run into this problem of identity and security. And yesterday I saw some brilliant blockchain innovations up there. But the blockchain's only as good as how you can transport that throughout the entire ecosystem and throughout the entire 5 elements. And then finally, intelligence. How are you going to manage the process? How are you going to take it step by step by step through the process so that when you get audited, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, or when the regulator comes knocking on your door, or more appropriately, when the regulator says, I want to look inside your system, how are you going to do that? And what did you do and what occurred during the process? So that's what we call the compliance hub. Let me take you into the inside of that. But before I do that, I want to show you a picture of this person here. Her name's Jean Socrates. Now, there's something interesting about Jean. I just met her, actually, on Sunday. And I walked up. I live there. I live in Victoria. And she's standing on a 38-foot boat. And I gave her a bottle of wine. And I looked at her and I said, what's it like to be the oldest person ever to circumnavigate the globe on a 38-foot boat, oldest woman ever to circumnavigate the globe on a 38-foot boat, unassisted, nonstop? And she said, man, you know, but she has a really cool British accent. She didn't say it with my accent. She said, man, she goes, you know, I really enjoyed it, except for the time I was knocked down on Cape Horn. So how many people know what Cape Horn is? Cape Horn is the biggest, roughest waters in the world. And she got turned back that time. She goes, I really hope that doesn't happen this time. There are 5 great capes that you have to go around if you're going to cross the 7 seas. And so when I talk about the hub, it just came to me and it just kind of occurred to me that, you know what? If you don't hit those 5 points and you don't hit your intelligence or your access or one of those, you're going to get knocked down. And you're not going to get to go any further with your application. Our goal is to help avoid that and allow a system and an ecosystem to form where we can all participate in the success of transforming these markets that certainly need to be transformed. So what I have here is I have a dashboard, and if you look at these elements here, we're talking to Edgar right now, which is the SEC. We've got some Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds up there, and really we're looking at what do companies and issuers and professionals and advisors need, and how are they going to participate in the ecosystem. And when we look at all the elements that are here, at first glance, this might look like, oh, well, it's a turnkey solution. Well, actually, it is a turnkey solution. But the intent is, and the idea is, that when you're dealing with everything from data to smart forms to smart contracts, you're going to need to have those elements built into the back end of the system. So whether you've got an extension into a CRM, or you've got an extension into a data room, or you want to do something like develop your own form format where you can have smart forms. Maybe this has a blockchain, maybe it's got a signature identification, that's a wrapper that you can access on the core and just do it immediately. Today, over at the booth, a gentleman stopped by and he said, wow, he said, what you just showed me would have saved me 4 years in development time. And I said, well, you know, I think you could have probably done what you just described to me in about 30 to 60 days. So how do we do it? And how does this all work for you? When you come in as a developer and you get access to our SDK, this is the front end that you're going to get access to, but we're also going to give you access to the FinTech nodes. Now, these nodes can be as complex and dig as deep into the system as you like, or they can be as lightweight as you like. Think of it as all of us putting together an app store for FinTech. That's what we're trying to give to the marketplace today. So when I go through this, how this works, let's just look quickly at the state machine behind the system. When you develop a state machine in our system, the front end, the UI, looks like this. And we can just add these different processes, stages, steps, and components. So if I want to build a process to authenticate a contract, and I have a client that wants to automate all of their paperwork and then have a process behind it, the state machine will handle all of that. We can then put in the automation agents and the codes very quickly behind this, and I'll show you quickly what a schema looks like for doing that. The entire system throughout the nodes is driven by a set of permissioning mechanisms, and the permissioning mechanisms, you can use ours. We've got over 2,000 of them. You can start with our established nodes, or you can build your own. And inside, you're going to set up your schema. And within the schema of the UI, you're going to be able to build your node or your gadget. Once you've got that done, you can develop any kind of front end or integrate it into any kind of front end you'd like. Today, we're about ready to launch investmentbank.com. They wanted to be able to talk to investors, intermediaries, and companies for mergers and acquisitions with an entirely new UI for each one of those that's dynamically generated. That's a complete and straightforward possibility. Maybe you want to build some apps, and you want to make those apps drag and drop directly onto a dashboard. You want your app to be part of it. You can do that as well. Or maybe you don't even like any of that UI, and you're a JavaScript guy, and you want to be able to, I shouldn't use guy, you're a JavaScript person, and you want to be able to design your own dashboard. So you're going to create a templated dashboard that's branded and dealing with the use case of your idea and your vision or your company's vision. So within this dashboard, you've designed all of these different apps and gadgets. This is one that's doing mergers and acquisitions. It's posting deals. But you literally can do anything with this. So think about the Finaeos core like this. It's a programmable cloud software. Behind that software are two very unique elements that we patented. The first was these dynamic UI gadgets or nodes. These nodes are interoperable. They're not APIs. I can't stress that enough. The more we have APIs, there's holes in the system. Those create or allow for dynamic user interface. The second is the process flow or state machine, which is quantum processing, where you can build any kind of process, you can automate it, you can put AI behind it if you want to, and it will run your best practices. So what I'd invite you to do is visit the Finaeos site, go to the solutions page or the developers page, log in, ask us for an invitation. We'll get back to you. We'll put you up with a VM. We'll get you the software. We'll get you the source code. We'll get you what you need to get going. and you can try to build this ecosystem along with us with your ideas. I really appreciate your time. That's going to ring, and I don't want it to, so thanks very much, everybody, and good sailing.